Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here today. I'm, of course, Gregor Guy.
My name is Casey.
And for your extreme viewing pleasure, we will be presenting, this will be episode 20 of the Bangcast. 20 episodes.
Seems like,
milestone. Small.
I'll be honest, it's so small. It seems like we've been doing this a lot longer than 20 times.
Well, I mean, we took a couple weeks off when I was sick and you were out for surgery, and, so... And plus, also at the beginning, we weren't even calling it the Bangcast.
Oh, okay.
So...
Technicalities.
We have been doing it longer. Yeah. But anyway. So, particularly this week, obviously, big news and everything. The whole Elon Musk, Twitter, him trying to purchase Twitter. Basic thoughts on that, before we even jump into any, data or anything.
I think that this is the best possible thing, not just for Twitter, but I think that's the best possible thing for the country, because Twitter has a very long-standing persecution of free speech, which I believe is the most important basic law in this country and freedom that we all have, is that we can say what we want to say. And I'm not talking about like free speech as in like you can show no nudity on it or anything, or free speech so that you can sacrifice animals, or I'm sure that all that stuff exists out there and they block all that stuff. I'm talking about just basic communication from one person to another and being able to express yourself as freely as possible in the exchange of ideas.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, on top of that, there's a reason that, the whole free speech is in the First Amendment to the Constitution, right. On the Bill of Rights. So, there's a reason it's number one.
And the reason there's number two is
Just
number
saying.
two.
I mean, and realistically, it seems how it's going is it's whether or not we like what you're saying versus, whether or not you're just having a discussion.
Yeah, and nowadays there's like basically hate speech is basically anything that somebody doesn't like or is contrary to their point of view. It's not hate speech. It's another idea that if you actually reasonably listen to somebody who has a good point of view, then you will understand at the very least where they're coming from in their idea.
Yeah.
And if it's a good idea, it'll stick around. If it's a bad idea, it'll go away or be ratioed in Twitter sense.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into a little bit of the details of, the timeline of what has transpired, so far, as of this recording. I'm sure it's all going to change next week, so get ready for another roller coaster ride. Basically, I've heard conflicting dates, but what I believe happened is Elon Musk on the 4th of April purchased 9.2% of Twitter stock, of the total stock. And, reported filed with the SEC, and reported on the 8th of April. So, 4 days later, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that was a weekend.
I think there was some kind of discussion on whether or not
whether or not he filed correctly or anything like that.
Right.
But I mean, that's, like I said, we'll know more about that probably next week.
Regardless, that's going to be a slap on the wrist, and he's not going to lose any money from that anyways.
No, definitely not. Okay, and after he bought that 9.2%, and, on the 8th, the filing became, public knowledge, the board of directors at Twitter decided to offer him a board seat, which would, however, limit his holdings of the Twitter company to under 14.9% of the total stock.
It was basically just to show, be like, hey, We will accept you. We'll be part of you, but we'll make sure that you don't have enough power to affect any kind of
controlling
change whatsoever.
interest, basically.
Right.
Now, I mean, I can see why you would have a rule like that, and apparently I understand this rule is only for their board of directors. I mean, I could be mistaken, but like I said, when you start going into the legalities and everything, I'm not a lawyer. I know you're not a lawyer, so it would be nice to talk to a fiduciary lawyer on this. Might have to look into that. Anyway, so they offered him this board seat, and he straight, flat declined. So that tells me right there, he's kind of, content not serving on the board of directors, and probably not limiting himself to that 14.9%.
Well, that's obvious after what came afterwards.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we're easing into it. We're just getting
Right.
everyone caught up at this point in time,
Right.
So, yeah, okay. Number one, Elon, fucking baller, dude.
I would like to point out that prior to him buying the stock, he tweeted out a question on whether asking his followers whether or not that he believed.
Oh yeah. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, whether or not that they believed that Twitter was utilizing the First Amendment and freedom of speech within their platform, and it was overwhelmingly no. By like 70-some%.
Yeah.
And,
I remember that.
And he also said
and it stated in there at the bottom, this poll will have significant, or significant something.
Right.
I forget the exact words, but anyway. And also, I think he reached out to, who was that? The Babylon Bee people? After they got banned from Twitter over a joke or something.
It wasn't a joke. It was just straight up saying that, I don't remember exactly, but it was basically saying that the differences between biological men and biological women in a joking sense, but it was at that the part that they were banned over was not part of the joke.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, all right, moving on from there. So on Thursday of this past week, Elon, filed the paperwork with the SEC, making an offer to buy Twitter, basically, for $43 billion. Now, that was at a share price of $54.20, which was 20% over the current market price at that point in time, which was 45, I think it was like 45.08. So basically 20%, return, or,
Right. Basically, he would be making all the people on Twitter that own stock money.
Any sane business person would take this offer.
Right.
Any sane business person.
But they don't use it as business purposes.
Well, I mean, and we'll get into that here
Right.
later. But so basically, that's kind of where we're at now. And we'll talk about that other thing at the end.